Welcome, everyone. I'm Sherry Harmel, business and life coach and creator of Be the Real You magazine that we launched just last week. I also have created many different courses related to being the authentic and real you. Well, this is episode 29, and I have titled this episode, All It Takes is One Idea. I recently listened to Sully Breaks, who is a British rap-like poet. Now, I'm not British, and Sully is young enough to be my child, but one of his poems spoke to me, and it is titled, All It Takes is One Idea. But where do those big, huge ideas come from? Sully mentions the biggies in his poem, Steve Jobs and Apple, Nikola Tesla, Google, and Sully reminds us that every single one of these now huge ideas actually started out as just a small, little idea. But what's the difference between Steve Jobs' little idea that changed the world and yours or even mine? Sully calls it passion, and I'm going to add that passion also means action. So giving you a little backstory here. Several years ago, a dear friend of mine suggested I start a digital magazine. She had created the very successful Bell Inspiration magazine herself over 10 years ago. And I'll never forget that conversation. We were sitting at the Café La Rotonde in Paris in the 16th arrondissement, having our usual coffees, which they serve with their homemade madeleines, I might add, and the seed was planted, but the soil wasn't yet fertile. Why? Because I thought that idea was just too big for me. No one in the coaching world had created a digital magazine other than one that was used as a freebie to gain clients. I also thought, I'm not a good enough writer. And then, and this one is significant, I thought, who in the world would be interested in the ideas in my head? Now, I was already writing a little column for my friend's magazine, and still I discounted the idea. I had titled that magazine column Conversations with an Entrepreneur because of another little idea I had, which was to create a 5-day entrepreneur workshop for women in Paris. This was a workshop that was going to combine coaching with touring shops and ateliers that all related to the businesses that the workshop participants were running. Now, I think you can start to see a pattern here. And what I want you to pay attention to is that ideas lead to more ideas, which eventually lead to making the big idea happen. We all need those little ideas that feed off of each other in order to create or make those big ideas happen. So what were my little ideas? Now, I posted my conversations column on my own website the moment the article went live in Bell Inspiration magazine, and people were interested. One day it dawned on me how much I enjoyed interviewing the women and writing about their entrepreneurial stories. Now, I'm an intensely curious person if you haven't already figured that out. So hearing the stories of women who had built something of their own fascinated me. But even more shocking, other women liked my conversations too. But still, my magazine was just another small idea. More time passed and I created this podcast, and I found that I enjoyed writing the content each week. The universe works in unique ways, doesn't it? In about my 10th week of the podcast, the idea of creating my own magazine started to percolate again, and I began to research the digital magazine world. Then I circled back to my friend, the digital magazine guru, and the casual suggestion that was made in that Paris cafe morphed from an idea to a project and ultimately to the digital magazine, Be the Real You. On April 1st, just last week, I launched the very first issue. I hope you all do subscribe. It's just $29 a year, and the magazine is filled with ideas that may just get you thinking more about the many ideas that you have. But you might be saying, we all have ideas and dreams. Why does one take off and another just sit on the shelf getting dusty? Sully Breaks mentions this in his poem, and as I said, he calls it passion. As Sully says, and I'm paraphrasing here, the idea becomes a passion slash obsession. The passion slash obsession becomes a project. And suddenly you have an idea that makes a difference in your life and possibly the lives of those around you. Wow. That possibility probably makes you want to get up and run around the block, right? Did me. I named my magazine Be the Real You because it became my mission that all women have the confidence to step into their real and true selves. My courses, this podcast, and now my magazine are all about supporting women like you to be the real you. When you are brave enough to be who you really are, your choices, decisions, and even your ideas become clearer. You'll also find that your self-confidence grows as you embrace and show up as your true and authentic self. I've even had the audacity to call my mission the Women's Authenticity Movement. Now, we get stuck and we never feel truly happy when we chase the things, the people, and the situations that are all about gaining acceptance, maybe from our families, our workplace, even our cultures. Honestly, I've chased more people trying to convince them to love me as much as I love them than I care to admit. So I've been in that place, ladies. I've learned that all that external acceptance, security, love, and admiration that we seek is really an illusion because honestly, none of it was really about me. And I imagine you would agree with me. It was about trying to fill my bucket of needs. And when you don't show up as the real you and know and love that woman, life is just going to be a very long marathon run looking for happiness, fulfillment, and dare I say it, passion. I'm reminded of The Wizard of Oz. When the curtains were pulled back, all that is real is a little man pulling some levers. So let's all commit to no more levers, no more curtains. Instead, I want you to commit to joining this women's authenticity movement and subscribe to Be the Real You magazine. Those are the conversations that we'll have in the magazine. When you subscribe, you'll get 4 magazines a year with the support and inspiration you need to take your ideas to passions and then your passions to action. I promise you, your life will change when you embrace the real you. Now, I want to thank all of you for spending your precious time to listen to this podcast. It means so much to me that you two have joined this crazy idea, audacious idea of a women's authenticity movement where we are showing up in this very crazy, difficult world as our real and true selves. So if you enjoyed this podcast, do subscribe to Be the Real You magazine. Ladies, I want more than anything for your small ideas to become your big idea. And remember, all it takes is one idea. A bientôt.